bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, bum, bum. Whenever he starts,
Good.
he does it to himself.
Oh, yeah?
And just, and that's his quote bumper music or intro. Come on in here, hi Jeremy, hi Bob, he does it on Periscope.
Uh-huh.
So.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Dun, 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 dun.
Here we are, Jimmy Doan Show, right?
Woohoo! Hey, everybody.
Yeah, because this is the usual, and we're a couple minutes late, but that's okay.
That's right.
This is our normal Sunday and Wednesday, 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Doan Show. Jimmy Doan here with Councillor Curtis.
Hey.
And today is the something or another of October 14th.
Yep. 14th of October.
Month is half over. And couple things to talk about.
Winter is here. Man, it's down into the freaking 60s.
Right, the 60s at night. Can you imagine? I mean,
it's unbelievable.
Can hardly, big warm jacket and everything to go out.
Head south.
Yeah, that's it. So anyway, we had a couple things that happened this week.
Yes.
You might want to comment. One, and a couple of different things that happened. One, of course, Turkey's government has told U.S. officials it has audio and video proof that a missing Saudi Arabian writer, Jamal Khashoggi...
Oh, I thought you meant the P-tape.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Jamal Khashoggi was killed and dismembered in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul.
How do they tell him from the other people that he's dismembered?
I don't know. They all look the same to me. No, but they seem to think that they have video and audio and everything, of that, and that apparently there was some 15-member hit squad that arrived in limousines, all darky window, diplomatic tags and everything, and then went in, and I guess a couple hours later came out with suitcases. Got on a couple of jets.
Was this guy like the Michael Jackson of Turkey or something?
No. He was a Saudi citizen.
Okay.
And he was a reporter. And
why does Turkey care?
Was in Turkey. The thing is that he went to the Saudi consulate, which, as you know, is Saudi territory.
Oh, in Turkey, right?
Yeah, in Turkey, okay. Right. So they, I
was trying to get Turkey.
Well, apparently he had gone over there to get some piece of paper in divorcing his wife.
Okay, whatever. And the point is that they're not directly involved, except that it's their consulate.
Who?
I mean, it's
the Turks are not involved.
No, right.
Yeah, but it does appear that the order came from the prince, whoever it was, the high muckety muck, to dismember this guy and get him out of there because he was a thorn in the side. Apparently, he had been writing some stuff in the papers around, and he was worried for his life. He'd come over to the United States for a while. He was, wandering around, and some of his friends had been arrested. I think we talked about this before. And and his girlfriend or somebody, he said that if I don't come out of the thing, you contact so and so, blah blah blah. And he was all set up to think that this might be very dangerous for him. So it turns out that apparently as they say, they have kind of somebody said we have proof that he was dismembered and sent back in pieces to Riyadh or wherever Saudi capital is or something like that. So first thing that happened is, Rand Paul and some other people get up there and say, well, we need to cut off the arms to the Saudis.
Let me just...
okay.
Okay, I understand it's a human being and it's awful, he's dead. Why is this a story?
Because the media made it a story. It's not one to me. As far as I'm concerned, not my problem. Whatever the Saudis do to their own citizens.
This is just a regular reporter is what I'm getting at.
Well,
he's
apparently...
not a nephew of somebody.
He actually had for a while. He's not a royal. But he was in with the Saudi family, for years.
Okay.
When he was proselytizing for the Saudis.
What I'm getting at is, does he have any other reason why we care other than he's a journalist? Is there anything else special about him at all?
No.
Okay.
I don't care.
Yeah, I mean,
but
don't they kill people all the time over there?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, it's on the McLaughlin group. It was, they were all talking about this, and should we cut off arms to Saudi Arabia because they kill people and so forth? Well, they
cut off heads, we cut off arms.
That's it, right? So, well, of course, the thing is, as Donald says, it's a $150 billion industry that we sell arms to the Saudis, and they want to kill one of their own people. That's not my problem.
So this is like. the policy is they're killing people.
Well, it's the fact is he's a protected class of reporter. You know, reporters go in the war zones all the time with a big sign on their back that says reporter, and they're not
Don't
supposed to,
shoot.
don't shoot me, right? So apparently he fell out of favor with the prince,
Right.
in the last year or two because he started right. Now it turns out he's a Wahhabi or whatever. He's one of the He's like Muslim Brotherhood person. You know, he does not come with complete as far as his beliefs are concerned. They don't align with the whatever it is on the Saudis, but it's just one of these things that it was amazing to me how many people took this up as a cause célèbre.
Yeah.
And say, there was a bunch of people that said cut off all arms to the Saudis, and of course Trump says, well, you're just going to buy them from the Russians and the Chinese, and well, not exactly, because of course they already have a bunch of our airplanes and stuff over there that need to be, serviced, right? So I mean, it's not like they're going to chunk them out. Although, of course, the defense contractors in this country have risen up in arms. It's, Boeing and all the people that make those planes have said, whoa, wait a minute. This is like big money for us.
Yeah.
And I think the stock market reacted or did something. But what's interesting, I thought, and I don't think the at least Lockheed or whoever makes the stealth fighters are too worried. As an appendage story here on a little branch from what I was just talking about as far as the arms are concerned, they apparently did not get all the planes moved out of Tyndall Air Force Base, the stealth bombers. It's a stealth bomber hideout. They have like 50 planes there.
Whoops.
And apparently they got about half of them out, flew them up to someplace in Georgia. But the other half, the maintenance, they're down. They're real finicky planes. And so the storm blew through there and like ruined them. I mean, they seem to think that there's, they cost like $300 million each.
Yeah.
So there is, the thinking is, we seem to be missing 22 of these planes somehow, whatever. And this is, I suppose, whatever, that's a couple of $1 billion or whatever, like who cares or something. Maybe the arms people will be able to ramp up and replace those.
Yeah.
I guess they will. But it's interesting to me that it wasn't like they didn't have a lot of warning. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but Tyndall sits on the ocean. I mean, on the Gulf. Yeah. It's like right there.
Yeah.
And it's like, of course, it's 20,000 acres or something. It's like as big as the one down at the base down in Fort Walton Beach too, which is another big Army base, huge. I think it's the biggest one in the country. Anyway, so Tyndall was where our friend Chuck was. He flew out of there. But anyway. So destroyed a couple of $1 billion. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
So anyway, the bottom line, what I'm saying about this, just to ash can this.
Sure.
As I said before, not my problem with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, the Saudi thing you talking about? Well, I mean, look, what I've said for a long time is in terms of violations of civil and humanitarian rights that are committed by other countries, that are on the scale that do not threaten us.
Right.
Okay?
None of them do, as far as I can tell.
Well, exactly. As a country, we can't do anything.
No.
If they go into one of their jails and just kill everybody or something, and then we decided.
Well, the international community will shake their finger.
Well, right. There's not much you can do. I mean,
that's it.
Now, from my perspective, I would make it legal for Americans to become mercenaries if they wanted to.
Well, no, it's already legal. You can become a mercenary.
Well, I don't. There's,
sure. That's private. You can. They have mercenaries all the time. There's no problem. You can start up your own. Now, if you happen to be against our government, they will shoot you.
That for sure.
But if you want to get a bunch of people together and go,
I think there's some international rules against that because our guys could theoretically get caught, and then I know, but we have this weird first responder rule. Like if you may get caught, then we're not going to let you do anything you want. Like you can't go back to your hurricane destroyed home because we may have to come in and rescue you later, kind of a thing. And
I suppose I do know that maybe they've passed a law in the last 100 years because
yeah, that's what it is. I think.
Because I can tell you that years ago, I mean, there were volunteers that went and fought in the Spanish Civil War.
Yeah. Well, I know, and back in the day, but I think it's.
And then, of course, we also always had people. You know, we had people that were in the Second World War, were in the British Air Force. You know, and everything like that. I mean, so yeah, right. Okay, so anyway, speaking of this kind of stuff, actually not. This on page 2.
Segue to something completely different.
Did you hear? You saw where for the second time only, the Soyuz rocket blowed up.
Yeah. And
rescued the guys.
Yeah.
As you know, as a textbook rescue. Apparently, the first stage had jettisoned, and the second stage didn't go right, and they have video of the, shaking around and everything, and then right away automatically the thing shoots off and the parachute and everything, and they were subjected to 7 Gs coming down. Okay, though, used to it, fine little ride. Yeah, right. I mean, they do that all the time in the centrifuge or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, textbook rescue, and of course, that's right now. That's the only way we get anything up to the space station.
Yeah, not anymore. They grounded them.
Did they?
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah, until they figure out what the hell happened. Exactly what happened.
I mean, they've had 70 good flights.
Well,
and now one not so good.
Yeah. I mean, super close, man. I mean, you don't make it back from an accident in space.
No. They said, of course, what happened was they weren't in space. It's like an accident
in a submarine.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
you're down 2,000 feet and it implodes.
Yeah.
Let's swim to the top. Hold your breath. No, but it's don't be quick to blame the Soyuz. The rocket flew. It flamed out, and technology that was first developed in the 1960s has been refined ever since to ensure that these two guys would live to launch again. So, I mean,
I don't know what the problem is. It's not like it's rocket science or anything.
No, yeah, right. Not rocket science. That's right again. Okay, there's a couple of other things that has to do with restaurants. Let me see if I can get to these. In the United Kingdom, restaurants and supermarkets have been told to shrink pizzas or remove toppings under, quote, drastic, unquote, new government plans to calorie cap thousands of foods in the UK. Now, I mean, I guess this is kind of like Bloomberg's soda thingy.
Yes, that's exactly what it sounds like.
Okay, yeah, so draft guidelines unveiled by the Public Health Administration would see recommended calorie limits set on regularly consumed items, including sandwiches, cooking sauces, pies, soups, and processed meats. While limits would not be mandatory under current plans, which are part of a package aimed at reducing childhood obesity, the government has warned that it would likely do mandatory should businesses fail to fall into line, with Public Health Minister Steve So-and-so declaring that the state was willing to do whatever it takes to keep children healthy and well in our country. Can you imagine? I mean, time and time again, when you see the government saying voluntary, you know, it's not voluntary.
Well, we just, I don't know how much power the Ministry of Fat people has, or whatever it is over there that's in charge. I don't know how mandatory they could make it if the officers didn't go along. I mean, if the restaurants, over here, they could, well, bam, you're done.
You lose your license?
Well, yeah, exactly. And you're out.
Yeah.
Business schmizzes.
Can you imagine they're coming in with what they want to do is reduce the size of the ppizza.
Right. Well,
so you walk in there with a ruler and, I don't know.
Well, quarter pounder, I don't think so.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, the other thing, of course,
remarket that sucker, man. You gotta. It's a fifth of a pounder now.
Well, not only that, as you well know, it's a quarter pounder before cooking.
Sure, yeah.
So it's actually 3 ounces when you get done with it.
Yeah, right. It's actually 3 grams. Yeah, but still, I think it's hilarious.
It's a hoot.
Well, what we did is we stopped serving extra large pizza. Now we just serve a small, medium, and we went ahead and added extra small.
Well, no, yeah, right, yeah, the average pizza size now is 8 inches because we can get little pieces
That's
like
right.
this.
That's right.
you know.
Yeah.
And it's like when we used to go to the Royal Castle or whatever it was, and they had the dime. This is when I was growing up, they had dime hamburgers. You get a dozen of them. I mean,
Right.
you didn't go in and get one. So anyway, let me just see here.
You got like a thimble-sized Coke you can get.
Now here's another thing that I got. This is great. Speaking of restaurants, jail time has been stripped out of the Santa Barbara no straws.
Oh,
So what they did is
what?
Yes.
They
Wait.
didn't let them get away with it?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is what I love about this. Santa Barbara's new proposal would fine repeat violators up to $250 for handing out prohibited plastic straws and stirrers. They had to add stirrers.
Oh, okay.
They sent it back to stirrers. But when they also came up with it, the new legislation would prohibit more plastic items, but impose lesser penalties than the original ban proposed in July. They voted 6-1, prohibiting a bill prohibiting all food and beverage providers from providing customers with plastic straws or stirrers, and they would be barred from giving out plastic cutlery unless a customer requested it. Violators, now this is what I like, violators would be given a warning for the first time offense, you get a little warning, and then after which they could be subject to administrative fines of $100 to $250 per straw or stirrer. Harsh though it sounds, it's actually less strict than the initial legislation. Under the first version, repeat offenses were a code violation, thus a misdemeanor, opening up the restaurateurs to possible criminal prosecutions of $1,000 in fines and 6 months in jail. Now, the thing about it is, so jail time is not in the thing, but what if you don't pay?
Right. Well, then what they do is they confine you civilly until you pay. It's not jail. It's civil confinement.
Okay. Oh, I see. Not a jail.
Right. You're there in the cell and all.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not.
But it's not
you're
jail.
not walking the street, but it's not a jail, right?
Right. Yeah.
No, that's right.
Civil confinement.
Civil confinement. The city officials had said, well, that was boilerplate language about this jail and everything. Boy, we just didn't even look at it when we passed, the jail time and everything.
Yeah, everybody, we do jail for everything these days. We didn't look.
We didn't look. He says the intention was never to issue fines or jail time. And
the intention was never to enforce anything.
No, right. What I'm saying
just wanted to pass law.
What I'm laughing, of course, about this is that the jail time has been stripped out, but has it really?
Well, no, of course it hasn't. Of course it hasn't. But what's funny is that their assertion is that we never. We
never intended that.
Look, what we wanted to do is we wanted to pass a law so that everybody would just comply. Okay, no need to enforce it or anything.
Yeah,
no need to punish.
No, the Santa Barbara has decided they're going to save the ocean,
right.
And stirrers and plastic.
Can you imagine, like, if in the 1970s when McDonald's was rolling this stuff out?
Yeah.
If somebody stood up and said, "Wait a minute, this is going to kill the environment. There's going to be people out there. This plastic utensils is horrendous. It's a horrible offense." They would have been like, "Bob, get out."
Yeah.
Bob, wait, do you work here?
Well, not only that, we need to Bellevue Hospital.
Right, exactly.
Could you send an ambulance down here with the men in white coats and a straight jacket?
That's right. I mean, what can you think of a more innocuous thing at McDonald's from the 1970s that is now? I mean, what, like the little game pieces or something?
Oh yeah. Well, they had.
Oh my God.
I mean, seriously, a lot of that stuff that was. McDonald's, of course, I remember it started in the 60s and 70s when they started doing. I don't know when they started the Happy Meals, but they almost always have had some kind of little toy for the kids.
Right.
And of course, sometimes you can swallow it.
How many turtles?
Huh?
How many turtles have those toys stuck in them?
Right. Exactly. Oh my God. So. I think it's really funny that they're trying to talk about social engineering. I mean, to think that they can stop people from being fat and plastic in the ocean.
Well, and how about I can't believe they still are not considering the disabled people who can't use the straws and stuff.
Right, exactly.
They didn't put the exception in for them or anything. I mean,
no. And of course what they do is
hideous.
they are fining the waitress person or waiter for handing it. In other words, the person who's actually using it apparently doesn't get fined.
Okay.
The fine it's against the law for the wait people to hand them out.
Right.
So
well, why not for the restaurant to own it or something? What, if it's there in your bin, it's like, well, okay, you hand out all this stuff except for spoons. All right, don't give anybody a spoon.
Right.
I mean,
this is where it just gotten to be so silly. This is amazing to me. Okay, so this is good.
and just so everybody knows, that amount of plastic is like 0.00001% of the plastic that's out there.
Yeah, I mean, and actually, when you think about it, the stuff that hurts, of course, are the beer things, the beer things that hold 6 cans.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, actually, it's what they say is it's the microplastics.
Oh, right. The micro. That's right. This is the molecular sized plastic.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not it's not the shape of any particular
of
thing.
course, whenever they rescue somebody, like the straw and the turtle.
That straw, you can just see it's dead. It hurts me to think about the picture.
Well, they had one the other day where they rescued, I think it was a whale that was
with this big old straw.
No, big straw right now. I don't know. Okay, so now, next item on the list here. Drones swamp the U.S.-Mexico border.
I know, and in the total wrong way.
Yeah.
I mean, we had this figured out.
Yeah?
Border Patrol.
Yeah.
I mean, done. All we have to do is start a company that is Border Patrol, fly our skies, fly the ugly skies or whatever it is. And you just put the drones out there and rent them to the kids to patrol the border. And instead, they're using them to get in.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. They said the Department of Homeland Security and FBI identified this week unmanned aerial systems or drones as one of the greatest national security threats to America, rating it as severe as the cybersecurity hacks, critical infrastructure hacks, and terrorism. So this is what they've elevated the drones, and apparently the drones are coming over, and what they're doing is they're finding out where the Border Patrol people aren't.
Right.
And flying over there, and okay, you can go over here and get through it. So they're I think it's interesting. It's only a matter of time until the devices are used to drop a bomb or fentanyl powder. So
here's what the time depends on: battery power and flight time. And the flight time right now is incredibly limited for what people are conceiving of. When they get that flight time up to around 24 hours, okay, then there's a problem, because then they can fly one in from Mexico or whatever. Yeah, because
right now it's like
a lot of Mexicans.
20 or 30 minutes tops.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So so we'll see. Again, our borders, we have such big, broad borders, and we've got 2 countries on the north and the south that we're not afraid of. We're not worried about people coming in terms of terrorist attacks from them, and nobody on the east and west. So what are you going to do? Fly it in from a ship or something? And until they get one that transcontinental drone.
Well, you think about it though, the drones that we're using over in, of course, I guess they maybe could shoot them down. But
well, exactly. I mean, that's how it'll happen. Is they'll shoot one of those down, copy it, and I'm sure we have some pretty good high flying ones that.
Oh yeah. No, we got.
Don't take a lot of power,
well, even the one that can stay aloft for 10 or 12 hours is the propeller driven one. And of course, it usually flies at about 10,000 feet, and it's got a camera on it that'll pick out
a mouse from up there.
From up there, so anyway, they're all worried about that. Military and law enforcement officers are already dealing with cases of drones being used for illicit purposes. Well, duh. On the U.S.-Mexico border, drones are already being used to spy on federal law enforcement operations and smuggle contraband through the sky. The first drug smuggling incident by a drone was in 2015. Now it's a daily occurrence But it's rarely reported because the Border Patrol is unable to seize the stuff. I mean, I guess it comes over too fast, whatever, dumps, whatever, who knows what.
And then
Yeah, well, that's it's interesting that the miscreants, the lawbreakers or whatever, will always find a way. I thought it was interesting. I mean, for a while, submarines and everything like that. Mm-hmm. Okay, next item on my list is America has now passed the 17-year mark in Afghanistan. U.S. troops have been fighting there for longer than the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, and World War I and II combined. Yet Washington is further away than ever from anything that might pass for victory. And the more than 2,300 American military personnel and 3,500 contractors, see, those are the ones I was talking about before, the mercenaries. Mm-hmm. Contractors have died in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. So, the latest one, last week, whatever, money offers no answer. The Afghan government is incompetent, divided, and corrupt, says somebody. Afghanistan is irrelevant to U.S. security. Russia, China, India, Pakistan, and Iran all have a greater interest in that country,
right,
not us.
Right.
17 years.
Yeah. So when they talk about contractors in that scenario, I'm pretty sure they're talking about engineers and
truck drivers,
infrastructure type of people,
pretty
not
much
contract killers or anything.
I don't think so, but again, I don't know. I mean, now, if you saw...
I'm sure they're military trained.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing about it is that there's certainly, if you've ever watched the movie 13 Hours...
18? Oh, no.
The one where they have a movie about the Lebanon... not the Lebanon, the thing that Hillary said was to
Benghazi?
Benghazi, right. Well, they had contractors, CIA contractors over there. They weren't supposed to be there, supposedly. And so they couldn't, you guys can't talk to anybody because we're not here, and that kind of thing. And yet they went over and tried, and I think a couple of them got shot up or something. But that was a big deal. They had the CIA bunker, I think, was a mile or 2 or 3 or 4 away from Benghazi area. You have to watch the movie.
I remember seeing something about that.
It was pretty good. Anyway, but that's the kind of stuff you see in there. They do have, I'm sure they have people over there that are with guns.
Right.
And besides the truck drivers and the people that carry the gasoline or whatever it is.
So the second thing that strikes me about that is it bums me out that Colin Powell relinquished or did not embrace what was ascribed to him as the Powell Doctrine, which was the supposed strategy that we should use when we're doing some type of incursion, which is first have as an exit strategy.
Right.
And they tried to make him say that. They said that he had said that about Iraq because we got in and out of there that one time. Mm. And so everybody was like, look, well, that's the Powell Doctrine. That's what he says. He says we find an exit before we find an entrance and that kind of stuff. And then at one point, when it was like well known that this was his strategy and his doctrine, he came out and said, I never said that.
Okay.
And he was like, dude, no, just embrace it. What he should have said was, I didn't say that, but I wish I had, because this is what we need to have every time you start a conflict. You have to know, if you're going to start it, you have to go to finish it. You can't go in there willy-nilly. And when you go into a foreign country, you have two choices. You can go in and you can do whatever you're going to do, and then you can leave at some point in the future and give it to somebody else, okay? Or you can go in and you can take the place over and own it forever. And those are the only two choices that you have. You either own it forever or you give it away at some point to some lesser power. Everybody knows when you give it away to some lesser power, chaos ensues because you're creating a power vacuum and you're asking power to come back in.
Right. That was the thing. And of course, that's what happened with the first Iraq War.
It's what happens every time in Vietnam, Korea. Every time you go into a place and then you leave, that's what happens. There's chaos, there's killing, there's a slaughter, there's genocide. It's a horrifying situation, which is why you don't go in when you're going to leave. Now, the only other option is you're going to stay forever. Now, as you pointed out, this is Afghanistan. It's 1 million miles from us, at least. It may be 2 million.
For all we care.
Well, exactly. And so, so you cannot have we're not going to own Afghanistan.
No.
It's never going to happen.
Wouldn't want it. I'm sorry.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
They got those rare earth metal.
We had the lithium, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true.
A $2 trillion treasure trove of. Well, that's probably why we're there. But
I don't know. It's hard to say.
for our iPhones, dang it.
Yeah, that's right.
Dang, I want my iPhone to be bright.
That's
Send
it.
the boys over. Get that dirt. But no, exactly. You don't ever do that kind of a thing. And so, our ultimate goal, what is going to happen, is we're going to leave at some point. We're going to leave, and so might as well do it now. The sooner the better. The less. Just do it. Like, this is a pull the Band-Aid off moment in terms of Afghanistan, and so get out.
Well, it's interesting because in a way, to me, they were talking. I was watching the Ken Burns thing on Vietnam, and how we ended up, when we had to finally get out and had left all kinds of people there. I mean, up until the day that the
Of course, because
people came in, the North was coming into Saigon, we were still thinking that we were going to do something.
Of course, because you have to make alliances when you go into those countries, and it's all those people, the quote unquote good people that you befriend when you go in there, that you convince, hey, turn on your brethren and side with us, the invaders, because we're going to do good things here at the end of the day. And what always ends up happening is they get like a sticky note at the end of the day that says, duck or something, watch out, because we left and...
They had one just recently. There were some nationals that were like the interpreters over in the Middle East that they were in the military, and so, but they were promised, if you join the military, this is your path to citizenship, a shortcut. Well, what happened was, apparently about 500 of them, they just suddenly discharged them from the military. You're out. Now you're not in the military anymore, and goodbye. Go home.
Yeah. So, and by the way,
anybody would believe.
Well,
the United States.
This time it's different.
Yeah, I know.
This time for sure. And and look, that's the classic. It's the classic dichotomy. It's like, well, it's the invaders or your crazy government. It's a Hobson's choice.
Right. Well, again, one of the things that's so sad is that if you've got, hornet's nest or something, what you really are not supposed to be doing is sticking a stick in it.
Right.
They're going to create their own problems. They'll do whatever it is. They'll kick their own people out. Dead hornets on the ground, whatever it is. That's But boy, you go in there, and all of a sudden, everybody around you, cats, mice, everybody.
Half of you hornets gets this half of the nest, and half of you get the other. We're going to cut it right down the middle.
Yeah, that's it. So, I just, again, you got to ask yourself, in a way, they never learn. And the question is why?
Well, and it's because, as you pointed out before, they're different people. And they're new people in there, and they get that young hubris, and they haven't learned their history, and they look back and they think, well, they did it the wrong way. This time we're going to do it the right way. And
well, but you say that, but there's a fair number of Vietnam vets, for instance, that are in power now, different places.
And some of them voted for the Iraqi war. And
I know. I mean, just what were you thinking? Here you got to wade through the swamp.
It's like
the Iraq is not a swamp; it's just sand desert.
That's right. That's right.
It's different this time.
Totally different.
Totally different.
How could you think they're anything close to the same? Dummy. Climate denier.
Yeah, that's right.
I think to me, it's kind of like this cycle of child abuse. It's like they have lived through this horrifying thing. They don't know anything different. That's what happens in life, is we go to war sometimes. So, okay, now it's their turn. Next generation's turn to go to war. It'll toughen them up or something. I don't know what. I mean,
and what gets me, of course, are the fathers, and now the mothers.
That was my voice. I was doing the father.
Yeah. Okay. That now say, son, you need to go in the military, you know, grow. I'm going like,
That's
what?
right. Well, they're probably going, look, we got enough food for like 4, so we got 5. You
Military. No. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Another Facebook thing. Facebook closed down almost 560 pages and 251 personal accounts on Thursday. This is last Thursday. Sputnik, apparently some magazine, not the satellite, takes a look at the omnipotent website's long track record of censorship. Facebook said on Thursday it was closing pages that were working to mislead others about who they are and what they're doing. So Facebook has decided to close down. Now, of course, there must be a jillion pages on Facebook. So they closed down. Well, some of the people that complained, believe it or not, Jason Bossler, or whatever, co-founder of one of the pages, the Free Thought Project, was set up to counter mainstream media's bullshit narratives. We were verified by Facebook and a little check mark next to our name, so they know we're a legitimate organization. You know, he said, but they cut him off. And what's interesting, there were a couple of libertarian pages also that got cut off, and you kind of wonder who's in there doing this stuff, and they've been blamed for. Private company, they can do anything they want, and, liberal bias and all that kind of stuff. Well, okay, as far as I'm concerned, as we've talked about before, the market's going to figure this out.
Sure.
I forget what it is that Tom Woods or somebody, there's 2 other sites that have sprung up now, and I'll have to get their name maybe on Wednesday.
Well, like we talked about before, DuckDuckGo.
Well, DuckDuckGo is a search engine,
right.
But there's some sites now that are Facebooky type sites that apparently
MySpacey
something. Yeah, right. Kevin Spacey. Okay. Now the other thing. Let's see what else I've got here, and in the works. Just a moment. Okay. There's that. Okay. That's interesting. I pulled up a thing that we've talked a little bit about this before, and I got 100 on this test.
Oh, jeez.
These are things you're no longer to do as a child, no longer allowed to do.
Yeah, well, I read through some of them, and it's like some of them. Who says who you're not allowed to do them? I mean, what the laws against a few of them?
Well, riding in the back of an open pickup truck.
Right, law
about that. And of course, you can, if you leave the house after breakfast and don't come back till nighttime, somebody's going to, check that.
There's laws.
There's laws about that. Now, eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the school cafeteria. Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah.
Riding your bike without a helmet. You got to be careful about that.
Law. Yeah.
And riding your bike with a buddy on the handlebars. And neither of you wearing helmets. Of course, we used to drink water from a hose in the yard. Okay, swimming in creeks, rivers, and ponds. Used to do that all the time. I still have a scar on my butt.
Oh, yeah.
When we had a big rain, and of course, what would happen? Yeah.
See?
No, it was funny. Had to go to the hospital. And what happened was our culvert, or whatever you want to call it, with the water runoff, and it was it was like this deep during the rains. Of course, we would go down there, about a mile from the house, and get in there and scoot on down. And I went over a rock and cut my butt open, and had to walk home, crying and everything, blood coming down my leg and everything. And went to the hospital. They stitched it up, and they said now. And of course, they're talking to me. Okay, I'm 8,
right?
And they said now you can't ride your bike for a week until you heal up. I was on it like the next day,
right?
And the stitches came out, but it healed over.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and so I had this big scar on my butt for the last 70 years.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, climbing trees, of course, and one park has cut the lower branches from a tree on the playground so that you can't get up there. I mean, snowball fights, and sledding without people. Now Mrs. Jimmy talked about this, sledding without enough protective equipment, and Mrs. Jimmy said that the cops came when she was sled riding up where she was growing up, and I don't know how old she was.
Gave her a push.
Well, no. The cops came by and said, you have to stop that, it's dangerous, whatever it is. And this was, I don't know, 50 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
So, carrying a pocket knife to school, good luck on that.
Yeah, I used to do that all the time.
I mean, really, I had a switchblade, for God's sake. Camping, of course, throwing rocks at snakes in the river, I don't know. Playing politically like cowboys and Indians.
Mm-hmm.
Cops and robbers with guns, cap guns, with cap guns. I mean, that was, you had the roll caps and everything, and they actually made a little
They
bang.
not still do that?
No, are you kidding? Jesus. And pretending to shoot each other with sticks, which we imagine, of course, that's shooting an actual gun or bow with sharp arrows, and not accompanied by your parents. I remember one time I had a bow and arrow, and I had a nice big target in the backyard, and it was up against a tree, and I missed the target, and it went through a window where my dad was eating breakfast, and the window. It went through the window and then stopped, like here, and so that's wasn't supposed to do that anymore.
Uh-huh.
But nobody died. Saying the words bang or gun or pow pow, and there's
Now
actually
you have to go with pew pew.
yeah, right. Working for your pocket money well before your teen years. Of course, I had a paper route when I was 8, 9, 10 years old.
Child labor.
Child labor, yeah. I mean, I made $1 a day, I think, doing that paper route. And taking that money to the store and buying as much candy as you could. I did that one time. I went to the store with my mother, and had my money, whatever it was, $3 or $4 or something. And I was really young then. And we went to this little store, and I had figured it all out. I'd added it up, and I had $3.26 or something like that. And I added it all up, and there it was, $3.26 worth of stuff. And so he rang it up, and he said, and well, you didn't have the tax.
Right.
And my mother was saying, this is great, a lesson for the son, And the guy said, never mind, just go ahead. My mother was ready to shoot him, lesson unlearned.
Right. Thanks a lot, dude.
Oh my God. Eating Pop Rocks candy and drinking soda just to prove you're exempt from the urban legend that your stomachs would explode. Getting so dirty that your mom washed you off with the hose. Literally, that happened to me. Writing lines for being a jerk in school. I did that. I had to do that. Playing dangerous games like dodgeball, kickball, tag, wiffle ball, and Red Rover. The Health Department of New York issued a warning about significant injury from these games. And walking to school, which of course I walked uphill both ways, but it was about 2 miles, I think, to school, and it was actually pretty dangerous. Well, my mom stayed home, so but Dad would take the car, and either there was a school bus, but if I missed the school bus, I'd walk, be late, Okay. So those are the things, just so you'll know, and it'll be interesting to see if this list gets updated 10 years from now.
Right.
On what you can't do.
Well,
there's a lot of words you can't say.
I used plastic straws.
Right, yes. When I was a kid, we actually had plastic straws. What? No.
So dangerous.
It's so dangerous, that's right.
Yeah, no, it'll be I ate real meat.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we'll see what happens, because it'll be, as I say, there's a lot of speech you can't use
into
anymore.
the sunlight.
Yeah. I remember I had a book when I was a kid called It was a book called Ripley's Believe It or Not, which he had put all the things in there, a lot of the crazy stuff. And one of them was this Indian fakir who had looked at the sunlight for 13 years,
Oh, jeez.
So, okay, next thing is the coming up on the elections in, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
The midterms. And it's interesting because the question, of course, is I was listening to
blue wave or red tide.
That's it. This is what's fascinating is Trump is out there at these huge rallies in the States. I mean, Mrs. Jimmy loves to watch those, but there are 10,000 people, at these things all going nuts. But what's going to be interesting is the consensus is currently that the Dems will take the House and might take the Senate. Of course, if they take the House, I mean, I doubt if they would do it, but they can start impeachment proceedings, because you only have to have half plus one to do impeachment. The problem is removing from office takes 2/3 of the Senate, which that's never going to happen. But it does appear that there might be a backlash, and the Repubs will hold on to both. And it'll be interesting to watch the Young Turks and Eleanor Clift and people like that go berserko and some of the people, Don Lemon and some of the other people on MSNBC and CNN and whatever it is, as the results come in from these different things, and they choke up if it happens. I mean, I don't know.
I'm a notoriously bad predictor of these things.
Are you?
Oh yeah, I'm the freaking worst. But I'm going to go ahead and say.
Go it anyway. Okay.
From my perspective, I think we're looking at a red tide situation.
I'm with you on that.
Because I think two things that I see. Number one, I think that all of the media are in the blue camp, and they want to report. They want the blue wave,
right?
And so I think that they're skewing their reporting to make it a reality.
I'm with you that.
And then the second thing is, when you look at those numbers at those rallies, that's it. What pollsters say, I think, is if you can get them to a rally, they'll come to the polls. And that's a big threshold. That's a huge threshold event. The Democrats rely on a couple of subgroups turning out in huge numbers.
I'm going to talk about that in a minute.
Go for that.
But you're absolutely right. I'm trying to talk about that in just a minute. The thing is, there seems to be a backlash. As the Repubs maybe have been energized now because of all of the stuff people are saying about the bad news, about Kavanaugh and and Kanye West, in the Oval Office and so forth. And suddenly, apparently there is sort of, these people are, when Don Lemon comes out and says that he's a token Negro, or what do you call him? Not an Uncle Tom.
Yeah, that was right.
Was it token? Yeah, whatever. But what are you talking about? Here's a guy who actually speaks his own mind. And if you listen to what's his name, Dilbert guy, he really lays it on and says this is exactly what happened here, and this was fabulous for both of them, for Kanye and Trump. That's what he seemed to think. Dilbert creator, what's his name, Scott Adams.
Yeah, I think it's a positive thing for Trump, but I think Shapiro had it the best, which is he says, live by the Kanye, die by the Kanye, which is you embrace Kanye at your own peril because, so far, so good. He said a couple of good things about your administration and whatever, but he has the ability to go off the rails at any point in time. He is somewhat unhinged. He's
got $1 billion company.
I listen, and my hat is off to him for that. I bow in his general business acumen direction.
Right.
The guy, poor single mom, I think, a single parent household, and now billionaire. You can't knock that.
No.
But he regularly says wacky stuff.
Well, he did say some stuff that appeared to be wacky at first glance to Trump.
That wasn't the stuff I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, to me, look, I'm not one of those people who thinks he's literally unhinged.
Right.
I think that he's just...
He's his own guy.
Yeah, exactly. He's
totally his own guy.
He's wacky, but he's not...
But he could... his own guy say almost anything, anytime, and believe it or whatever it is, and it can swing both ways. You're right.
Exactly. So we'll see. But I think it's definitely a positive thing for now. But I think the media, to me, the biggest story about the Kanye thing was just the further revelation of how far from journalism the media has finally gone.
Really, yeah.
And they brought up his dead mother, the ex-lover of his wife, of his now wife, and his mental health, all in order to assassinate his character over this one visit. You'd have thought he squished all the puppies in California or something. Yeah, seriously. They turned on him like a viper. Just viciously ate their own, like it was nothing, like piranha.
Yeah.
They chewed him up, man. And in no time. So, and I have seen, and that's the kind of thing that I think will spur the red tide situation.
I agree. I'm with you on that.
Independents look at that and say, "What are you doing?
Yeah,
you've lost your mind."
Yeah.
And I saw this week on my Facebook page, a person said they posted a picture of another person at a dinner table. One of the people had a Trump shirt on, and their caption, my friend's caption was, "My dinner is ruined." Because this other person was just wearing a Trump shirt. So then she says she got up and gave him a piece of her mind in the middle of the restaurant with profanities and such. And I'm thinking, you don't know these people. You have no idea. For all you know, he's wearing that shirt out of Lost Bet or something.
Right.
But even so, it doesn't matter either way. That's not the kind of thing that's going to change anybody's mind.
No.
And this is an adult. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, if this is what the reaction's going to be. I actually had one of my friends, I was in a discussion about gun control, and they said what they were most afraid of in the gun control arena was, get this.
Okay.
Blue tide, Democrats win it all, both houses. They start and complete impeachment proceedings. Trump's base takes up arms in revolt.
I see.
That's their fear.
I see.
And I'm thinking, wow, I mean, you would have to, to me, it would have to be Venezuela bad before anybody's taken up any arms in this country to go for a coup. There's far too much relief at the ballot box. You can just go vote. I mean, if you really have a problem, you just go vote. And then if you lose, you tell yourself, which is the reality, that your position wasn't very popular because you lost at the ballot box. So obviously not a lot of people agree with you. But it's interesting how angry everybody, it's like the hate parade is out there. And
it is, yeah, it is really, like you say, it's the how can you put this? It is so far, the hate is so palpable, and you're thinking, but why? You know, hate is one of those things that eats you inside.
It totally does.
And if you are that hateful of something like a shirt,
yeah,
what is wrong with you? I mean, it's not that big a deal.
Right. I'm so with you. And they apparently some little girl in Vermont just got run off the ballot because just the death threats and the people broke into her home and such.
Oh yeah. Well, they also had it just in two places. They vandalized the GOP headquarters in a couple of different states, cities. I mean, they broke the windows and all that stuff.
Well, that little girl in Vermont was a Democrat.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know what, but to me, the story of the week. I don't know if you got this on there, but have you got Oregon?
No.
Okay. So to me, this was the story of the week, and it's exactly parallel to what we're talking about, which is this hate group, Antifa, has been allowed to take over streets and run their own protests and protest without permits and do whatever they want, basically, in Oregon.
I did see a picture of them directing traffic.
Yeah, they were that was last week.
Yeah.
And since then, over the weekend, there was a scofflaw, or there was a scuffle. There was a big encounter between Antifa and whatever right group was protesting, and fights and everything. So we'll see what comes out of it. But the police didn't engage again, and the mayor condoned that again. So they're just it seems like the mayor. To me, the best comment was, has anybody checked the mayor's closet for a black trench coat and ski mask?
Yeah.
Because apparently he is on the side of this Antifa group, this fascist Antifa group.
So let me ask you a quick question. On this battle that occurred wherever it was, I mean, how bad was it?
So far, I just heard it was fist fights and stuff, and maybe there was people using some sticks or something.
Okay.
But it wasn't. It's not like weapons.
So the police didn't go in. It went away, right?
Yeah. So far, yeah.
So I mean, one of the problems you have is when the police start wading in there.
Well, and that's what the Portland mayor said.
Yeah.
He's like, look, either we go in and it's heavy-handed.
Right.
We don't go in and we're two hands off. He's like, it's a no-win situation for us.
Yeah.
And he may be right about that.
He might.
But it just to me, if I were the mayor of the city, there's no way people will be taking over intersections. No way. You can't let that happen. That is just. There is a point at which you err on the side of heavy-handed if you're the law enforcement personnel. You have that at some point you have to enforce the law. It's like that thing. Well, we didn't want to fine or put anybody in jail. Well, you have to at some point.
Right.
If you're going to be in control of the intersection and of the city, then and if you're not, then somebody else will be, and then.
Well, it does. I can tell you from past experience that these things do tend to escalate. That is, I wasn't satisfied, so now next time we're going to have more people.
Well, exactly.
And the other people, it's like an arms race. And
let me tell you something. I guarantee you, every one of those Antifa people went back to their base and went, listen, we got full free reign in Portland. So everybody show up this time. Bring your weapons and your masks and whatever. And the next time it'll be triple or quadruple or whatever. So
of course, I don't. To me, when people started wearing masks around, I'm thinking, why? I mean, were you afraid of being noticed or?
Yeah, well, they're afraid of getting on camera. They know they're going to break the law. That's why they're wearing a mask.
Well, that's. So to continue along sort of this line, we were talking about the voting. I thought it was kind of interesting. The Democrats have a Latino problem. One of their base, as you know, they have Hispanic voters who are supposed to be the party's future. It's not working out that way. The Democrat Party is trying to regain control of Congress to win back the White House will need the support of women and minorities. Almost 7 in 10 women are registered to vote, and they disapprove of Trump's performance in office. The black vote will certainly favor the Democrat Party as well, and only 10% of black voters support Trump. And then there's the Hispanic vote, who seem reasonable to assume that 3 years of uninterrupted years of demonizing, ostracizing, and persecuting the country's Hispanic immigrants, Trump and his nativist enablers would have to hell to pay with the Latinos at the ballot box. But maybe not. They have become a maddening puzzle for the Democratic Party. And what's interesting is there seems to be when you think about it, the Democratic Party is the party of special interests. I mean, they have divided groups. We're going to appeal to this group, that, and the Republican Party not so much. Maybe white guys or something like that. But I mean, basically, it's they don't try and do the what do you call it, the politics of group politics or whatever, the way the Democrats do. You're either for the women, you're for the blacks, you're for the Hispanics, you're for intersectionality, right? And so here's one of them that, according to this thing, they might, it's eroding away. And as somebody once said, especially when you talk about something, the quote black vote, if they were to lose 5 or 10% of it, it would swing the election.
Right, and I think they already have. From my perspective, it's they don't understand their base. They think it's Latino and black, and it's not. What their base is poorer people, and those groups are disproportionately made up of those groups. That is to say, Latinos and blacks don't have the resources as a group that the whites have, and so those groups more heavily favor the Democrats.
Because they get free stuff.
That's right. But the problem is, for the Democrats, that Latinos, especially, are very upwardly mobile.
Yeah.
When Latinos come to this country, man, they're hardworking people, and they often, nowadays, they're a big enough percentage of the population overall. We're talking like 17% or something. They're a larger group than the blacks.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
And so they now control a fair amount of economic buying power. So if you're bilingual, if you're a Hispanic business person, you have a market, a built-in market. And so, like I said, they're upwardly mobile and successful Latinos, very financially successful Latinos, shift more towards Republicans as that in that group. The same thing for blacks. They say 90% of the blacks vote against Trump. That's inaccurate. What the reality is 90% of them voted for Obama. Okay, you want to know why? Because he was black. All right. Now, I know, but he is.
Sounds a little racist.
I know. It does. But look, you knew that was going to happen, and they did. But now that there is no black person in the race, or at least right now, as there's no black person in the race, they're going to vote more their conscience and more just whatever other issues are out there. They're not going to vote over and over again like that en masse. That's never going to happen. Nobody's going to get the type of percentages that Barack Obama got. He was the first.
Okay, well,
and
it could be right. Again, this is what to say. It'll be fascinating to see on what things are like on November 7th or whatever it is. I'm going to have to watch the Young Turks go blow up again if they don't. I was watching that earlier today as the meltdown.
Oh, right, during the Hillary thing.
Yeah, right. Oh my God, it was just to see what's his name.
Cenk,
whatever his name is, just the total and the whole panel melting down. It was just a riot. Okay, the GOP message now, and I think this is the last thing I have. The GOP seizes on left's unhinged mob mentality in a viral video. The GOP message going into midterms is simple. The left is an unhinged mob full of radical Democrats who shouldn't be allowed to govern the country. The mob mentality began last Saturday after President Trump said that Democratic resistance to the Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh was an attempt by an angry mob to hijack the proceedings. And what's interesting is of course, we've seen the videos of what you would, a large group of people in the Senate building or in various places when they confront their senator or their with the Kavanaugh business, and they're screaming and so forth. Well, you certainly have a right to protest, and of course the lefty people are saying that all this screaming and confrontation is merely confirming the constitutional right to protest or to do that sort of thing. It's not a mob at all. Well, it's interesting that you look at them and you see the signs and everything, and you start to think, well, what's the difference between a protest and a mob? I don't know.
From my perspective, they're not a mob. It's a vociferous protest at this point. Look, you saw them. People say, "Oh, they're beating on the Supreme Court door." Yeah, but there's a great video on Facebook of these two dogs, and they're on opposite sides of a sliding glass door, and they are screaming at each other, and they're. And somebody opens the door, they both go, and they both look the other way. Like they're not even going to confront each other at all. And this is the situation because you have, if somebody had opened the Supreme Court doors and there was a bunch of bailiffs or marshals on the inside, that people would have been like, "Oh, sorry, is this the Supreme Court? We were just knocking because there's candy or, I don't know, caroling." So there's
trick or treat.
Yeah, try trick or treat. They're not going to do anything at the end of the day when it comes down to it. That's what I've been saying. Nobody. It's not like West Virginia is going to send a militia group to Washington or something.
Mountain men.
That's right. All 17 of them, all related.
Yeah.
And no, that's we're really far from that. Now, this Antifa group, that's a mob. That's definitely a mob.
Yeah.
When you put on masks and you take to the streets and you start ordering people around, and violently, you're destroying property. They beat up on a 70-something-year-old man's car.
Yeah.
Boy, that takes a lot of guts.
Yeah, right.
I mean, geez. I wish somebody had thrown like a bunch of firecrackers out at him,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
and the shooting begins.
Well, they shoot all each other or something.
Right.
I mean, who knows? I mean, they would have known it was firecrackers, but I think it would have shaken them up just enough. Well, look, one thing I'll say, and you know more about this than I. From what I've read, after Kent State, things kind of quieted down a little bit in terms of the protests.
When was Kent State anyway? That was in the 70s, wasn't it?
Was it that late?
I think it might have been early 70s, maybe. I don't know.
1970 or something.
Yeah. Well, it was. I'm pretty sure it was after Chicago '68, which was the
big convention.
Big deal. The convention that really kind of got out of hand.
I'm obviously.
Well, then of course you still have the iconic picture. I was watching there's a I think it was in the 70s. I'll tell you why, because I'm watching now a Time Life something or another on. I'm streaming it on Netflix, and it's called The 70s.
Oh, okay.
And of course, one of
Right.
it has to do with the war protests. But they have that, the iconic picture of the girl over the dead body and everything. It's still,
Right.
still there today.
So all I'm suggesting is that I don't think it's as serious a mob as
Okay, well, I tend to agree with you on that. And again, one of the things that we're going to see, I am anxiously counting the days to see what's going to happen with this election.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
That'll be fun. The other thing, what you mentioned, and I'm just as a closing for me here, you mentioned those dogs. What I thought was funny, I saw one also where the dogs were barking at each other through the glass door and everything, but it was open on the other side. In other words, if they just if they had just walked down, they could have gone on the other side.
Yeah. Let's see. I did notice the DC Archbishop resigned.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess that's about it.
Okay.
So.
Catholic Church is in trouble.
Yeah. All right. So dun 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 dun.
Let's see. We ran a little over today.
Yeah.
Ran a little over, but we'll be back on Wednesday.
That's right.
And 4 o'clock.
That's right.
Tune in, and of course, if we dropped out here at all, then,
Which we did. We'll have a new copy
yeah,
uploaded momentarily here. So.
yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, leave us a comment.
Yeah.
Say hi.